Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Franz, music director of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra, and I am here today with two dear friends of mine, one that I've known for a very long time, and one who is newer to me. But together, we have put together the most amazing piece for you that we are going to do the world premiere of on November 19th and 20th at our second Masterworks. So, welcome, Jeffrey Beagle, pianist extraordinaire.
Welcome to
Hello.
see you here. I'm so happy to see you again. It's been a long time.
Thank you.
So old friends and
It's
new
been a
friends.
very long time. And then a good friend of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra from the past few years, Mr. Farhad Pupel. Hello, Farhad.
Hello, hello. Nice to see you again, Robert, and nice to see Jeffrey for the first time in sort of this kind of visual meeting. We usually just chat with each other, not just visually we haven't talked. Yeah. So
That's true.
Yes.
Very true.
So we will get into all the details about this great new premiere, The Legend of Bijan and Monige, for piano solo, orchestra, and chorus, and how that all came to be. But before we start that, Jeffrey, might you share with our audience just a little bit about our history together? It seems we've known each other for quite a while. I remember a little Lowell Lieberman piano
Oh
concerto in
gosh,
our past.
little concerto. I think that's one of the best piano concertos in the last 20 years. The third piano concerto by
Yeah.
Lowell Lieberman. That was a project that's was birthed out of previous projects I'd done for commissioning new works. And that was actually the first project that brought an orchestra in Germany into an American project. So uh, I remember reaching out to you. Email wasn't so old or new at that time. We were really getting our feet wet. And that became the means of communications. And when I presented the project to you, you were in Mansfield, Ohio, and you said yes. And so the Mansfield Symphony was a member of the consortium, one of 18 orchestras to commission Lowell's Third Piano Concerto, which was every place it was performed, it went really well. And that's how we met. And I just, maintained my usual knocking, rapping, banging on the door through email to everybody for every project since then. And uh, when this project came about, which we'll talk about, uh, it was actually Farhad who suggested your name to me because you've embraced his music. And I said to him, well, that's easy because we've worked together before. And just you never know,
That's
but
right.
sometimes puzzle pieces come from different parts of the world to create one picture. And here we are.
It's a small world for sure. And at the time, I was working in America, and of course, you're an American, I'm an American. But now we have these three countries represented: Canada, America, and Iran, or the UK. Four countries, I guess. One thing I want to say, yeah, exactly. One thing I want to say before Farhad, we get to you is Jeffrey. This concept of 18 orchestras commissioning a concerto, that seems. I think for some of our audience members, that's something that's really quite extraordinary. You often think of an orchestra commissioning a piece of music to be premiered, but you have sort of made your career of putting together these consortiums. Can you just tell us a little bit about how this consortium work happens?
Basically around the turn of the century, I wanted to create a project that would celebrate America and celebrate the millennium. And I asked Ellen Tate Swillick to write a new piece for me. And I said, I don't know how many orchestras we'll get, but I'm going to just go for the gold. And it ended up 27 orchestras to co-commission the piece. And we covered half the country. And after the premiere of that with Cincinnati Symphony, I kind of got bit by the bug because I love working with living composers. I can actually make a phone call or an email and ask them a question about a phrase or a dynamic or a pedal. I can't call Beethoven. So working
Right.
with Ellen was like, okay, I like this. Then I did another project that was supposed to be the first 50 state project without orchestras paying into it because I raised the money. And 9/11 happened and I just didn't feel it was the right time to do it. Then came Lowell's project, and having 18 orchestras, it wasn't 27, but 18 was good. To me, multiple performances of new music is important because A, it makes it less expensive for orchestras to pay, and it gets the performances done. The composer's music gets heard more often. And then after that just came more and more projects. Now I'm working on a 50 state project, fully funded. And I have about 13 to 15 right now. Hopefully by the time this is aired, I'll have all 50. But it's so that's another kind of thing. But in 2 years from now, will be a project with Adolphus Hale Stork with only one orchestra. So you go from one orchestra, that'll be Pacific Symphony. They paid the whole tab. So they have the exclusivity of the world premiere and they own that right. And then other orchestras, of course, can do it after that. But as far as a commissioning project, that was a one orchestra folks. You can go from 1 to 50. I could even expand the new Peter Boyer Rhapsody and Red, White, and Blue project to other countries. You never know really where it's going to go. I like to take these projects and let them take me, because then it becomes bigger than what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And I would also think that performing a brand new work 18 or 27 or 50 times is really probably pretty interesting for you as well, because then the piece really becomes a part of who you are rather than just sort of preparing for one performance and then you're
It's so
finished.
true. And you know what I like about it is it's a quick learning experience about making the piece become a staple of the repertoire, because every conductor brings something unique to it too, and every orchestra sounds different. So I have to tweak the way I play it to each situation, which embeds the music within me even deeper. And I became more uh, in sync with what the composer wanted, I think. With all the different performances, it really is a learning experience for me to become a better musician and just to listen better.
I mean, it's true for musicians in the orchestra, it's true for conductors. The more you get to do the same piece over and over, the more you learn about it. So, speaking of doing pieces more than once, Farhad, you and I met through Facebook, and you approached me about a piece that you had, a string orchestra piece. I fell in love with it immediately. We programmed it here in Windsor with the Windsor Symphony, and it was, I think we performed it a few times, but you came down
Yes,
actually. You got here to Windsor
yes.
to see, and we got to meet in person, which was really extraordinary. Tell our audience a little bit about that experience for you. I understand it was the first time. Was it the first time that a professional orchestra had played your
Yes,
piece
yes, 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 yes.
internationally?
It was the first time actually a professional orchestra playing my piece. Yeah, throughout the whole world. Actually, the first I wrote the piece, I told him I didn't know what would happen. Actually, I was a part-time pharmacist in Iran, and I don't know what the future was for me. So I told to myself, okay, maybe send the piece to some orchestra to see what will happen. Then you can see what will happen. And I remember the first countries that I sent was the US and Canada. The reason for Canada is that I had a multiple sort of visit visa for Canada at the time. I told to myself, yeah, maybe you could go there because of your visa. And then I searched orchestras, and then I find your orchestra, and I really like the personality of the orchestra, and I really like the personality of you in general. And so I send you the piece,
Hmm.
and
It's an acquired taste, Farhad.
and anyway, so I couldn't believe it when Fate sent me an email and sent to me, yeah, we want to program the piece. And I just, wow, that happened. That really happened. And it was quite extraordinary in a sense that it was the first, the only foreign countries that I've been through before Canada was Dubai, Emirate, and Turkey. So all in Middle East. So Canada was the first out of that region, yeah. And it was quite extraordinary experience actually. I think I was at four of the concert or five of them. I'm not quite sure. I wasn't at all of them. I missed two of them, I think. And after that, I regretted actually why I wasn't at the two other concerts. And then from that, our relationship has begun.
It has, absolutely. So tell me and tell us about the genesis of this piece. I think this was an idea that you've had for a while, right? To compose a piece based on this story. So tell us a little bit about how it came to
Uh,
be.
uh, it is very interesting because I haven't expected this piece to happen, but at the same time, it has a very deep root in me, in a sense that even before I decided to become a composer, actually, when I was 13, 14, something like that, uh, I really wanted to compose a series of pieces. Actually, to be exact, I wanted to compose an opera, actually, based on all Shahnameh's stories. Shahnameh is a book. It's if you translate it to English, it would be Book of the King. It's we all know the Persian poetry tradition. It's considered by some as the first masterpiece of that tradition. And the book is 53,000 verses, and it consists many stories from pre-Islamic era of Iran. It's a very large book, and it took the poets 30 years to write the whole piece. So it's a very, and it's very influential even to this day. Actually, people read it, people cry, and it's just amazingly how influential a book can be for thousands of years. It has been written on 10 BC, so it's 1,000 years old. So anyway, the piece started actually as I wrote another piece after the piece that you've premiered called Fantasy on One Note for piano. The piece was very successful actually, and just with the performance alone, I think it was my most successful piece so far. It has been performed in France multiple times, Czech Republic, UK, Sweden, recorded in America, broadcasted in Netherlands. It has performed all over the world. And I thought to myself, maybe you could send to other pianists as well. And I searched the Steinway artist actually, and I found Jeffrey. Unfortunately, I haven't known him since that time. And when I started listening to him, I thought to myself, yeah, maybe I should send to him to see what will happen. And I sent him to the piece, and he sent me an email, and it was very interesting because the first part was very typical. He said to me that, yeah, I like the piece, and I show it to my students. And typically, when pianists don't want to perform the piece and they want to be polite, they say that to you. So I told myself, yeah. And then at the end, he said to me, "How about the concerto?" And I just thought, wow, I didn't expect that at all. Actually, this is something extraordinary. And I talked to him, and he told me, do you have any ideas and etc. I remember the first thing that I told him actually was Turner. I haven't thought about Shahnameh at all actually at the time. And he told me, how about your heritage? And I told him about the story. And the first story that came to my mind was this story, this love story, Bijan and Manager. The reason for that is that the characters are a bit naive and bold and sort of extravagant. They are a bit. For example, to tell you an example, the manager, the girl, in one part of the story, actually, they are together with Bijan for 3 days. Manager is from a rival country of Iran and the daughter of the evil king Afrasiab. And the boy, Bijan, wanted to go back to Iran. Manager actually poisoned him and put him into sleep and kidnapped him to his castle. So it is a very sort of, they are very bold and teenager type, you know what I mean? So I thought to myself, yeah, maybe piano concerto is the best form for this. And he told me, what is that? And I told him it's a set of poems and etc. He told me, how about adding a choir as well? And I told to myself, I couldn't find a good translation in English. He said to me, no Farsi. And I wasn't expecting it at all, actually, to a choir perform the piece in the original language. And also it's a mammoth task because I haven't composed such a large piece before. It is a piano concerto and a choral piece at the same time. So I think for the first 2, 3 or even 4 days, I wanted to say no because I told to myself, you can't handle this sort of mammoth task. You cannot handle this large task. But the reason that I told to myself, no, you can go, is that I have a vision of the ending. And whenever I have a vision of the ending of a piece, I know that the piece, I could manage it. So I told to myself, yeah, you could go. And then, it started. Yeah.
It sort of came together. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, actually. Our audience may or may not know that for composers, I think one of the most difficult components of writing a piece of music is the ending.
Yeah.
I think many composers, many major composers have fallen on their faces with great pieces of music. They get almost to the end, and then it's sort of like,
Yeah.
I wonder what happened right there. I mean, and probably the most famous is poor Schubert himself, who didn't even finish his 8th symphony. He was so tired of whatever he had written in the first couple of movements.
Yeah, I know.
Well, so Jeffrey, what was it about Farhad's music that was appealing to you? And tell us from your perspective, what about this story was of interest?
Well, and it's interesting, when I got the music from you, I had no intention of even to not play the work. The recitals are so far and few between now. There's like no recitals unless you are just stereotyped as a pianist who does recitals. Unless it's such a weird business. It used to be more recitals, less concertos. It's flip flop now, but no. And I always like to say that because if I'm teaching young students, they need to do works by living composers. And I thought, well, why not? But what intrigued me is that knowing that in the business, playing with orchestras or even with choruses, I mean, I've added, this will be the third work for piano, orchestra, and chorus to the repertoire since I've been doing this. There's a William Bolcom, Jake Runestad, and now you. And I always felt that was important. I love choral music. I've written choral music, and I always felt that the repertoire was too slim for the three forces. And I remember when you said, "Oh, I don't think I can do it," and then my first thought was, you're from Iran. We don't have much music from your part of the world, and here you are, a living composer. Why not? I said, why not embrace your heritage? Find something that means something to you that you could bring to us. And that's really what the focus of the project became. It wasn't just another work for piano, orchestra, and chorus, but it's meaningful for many reasons. And as I get older, I find that it's very important to curate projects that bring people together, despite all the differences. And I find that this is a very important part of that as well, because you're bringing something that many people don't know, and you're combining that with music for a piano, for an orchestra, for a chorus. I think it's the way to go. And I know you were a little worried at first, and sometimes I present ideas to composers and they think, oh, I can't do that. I love that. I love when they say I can't do that because I know they can. And over time, you start to, you believe you can. I'll never forget the story of Rachmaninoff when Cesar Cui, a wonderful composer, I've recorded all his preludes. He's a very interesting composer. He was the critic who panned Rachmaninoff's First Symphony. He destroyed it, sent Rachmaninoff into depression. He became an alcoholic. He was a mess. And the family said, hey, we can't let this go on anymore. So they sent Sergei to Dr. Dahl, Dahl. And Dr. Dahl hypnotized him, and he went through these psychotherapy sessions. And he made Rachmaninoff know, you will write a major work. You are going to be a great composer. You are a great composer. You're going to come up with something quite remarkable. And he did. The second piano concerto came out of that depression, and he dedicated the piece to the doctor. So it's important. I mean, I think composers need to have that fine balance. You don't want them to think, I really can't do it. Or you don't want them to think that, oh, I could do that's no problem. And they pile on a lot of work. And, thinking you could do something too much is not a good thing either. You need to have that huge amount of space for striving for something bigger than yourself and a tremendous amount of humility, because then you can really come up with something quite extraordinary that's bigger than yourself. And you did. This piece, I think it's remarkable what you've done. Fabulous.
One of the reasons I'm so attracted to this piece of music and that I'm so excited that it's happening here first in Windsor is that Windsor itself is an incredibly diverse community. In fact, per capita, we're the fourth most diverse city in all of Canada. And so we have people literally from all over the world who've made their home in Windsor. And so for us at the Symphony, it's really important that we tell people stories from all sorts of cultures. And so Farhad, one of the reasons I was attracted to your music is because I just love the music. But the other is I really do love what it is that you are trying to communicate through your music. Now, from a practical standpoint, the chorus, as you mentioned, will be singing in Farsi. How does that work for a chorus who doesn't speak Farsi?
Uh, Farsi is a bit, if I may add to the previous discussion, it's very interesting because Jeffrey said correctly that we want to bring the people together. And actually, the Shahnameh is trying to do that. The Shahnameh is the symbol of a sort of, how can I say, a civic nationalism or healthy nationalism in a sense that it tries to give an identity beyond tribe or beyond religion or anything. And it says, actually, I use the verse in the work, at the end of the work, that it's not from the story, it's from another love story. And it says that without fire and with just soil and water and air, the earth wouldn't be bright. It means that the context of the story was that the father, this was from the mother of the girl, and the father of the girl says that we are Arabs. At the time they were called Arabs, fires. They are from fire. And he said that we are from fire, they don't want fire. And the mom says that without fire and with just soil, water, and air, the air wouldn't be bright. So it's just throughout the Shahnameh you can see that all throughout it, and even this story, they are lovers from rival countries. So anyway, and for the Farsi, I think it's a bit easier than many languages because first of all it's an Indo-European language, so it's very much near the English language in a sense. And also, you said that I think you are correct. It's a little bit like German, in a sense that, and it has so many and something like that. And so, but at the same time, what I always do for writing for words for any settings, choral, solo voice, and etc. It just I always sing the parts, and if they don't sound funny to me, they are good. You know what I mean? If they sound a bit funny and off, they say, okay, it's not good. Let's change it. So that's how I manage all of these things, actually. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, one last question for Jeffrey, and that is, Jeffrey, if you have an audience member who's coming to hear this piece for the very first time, which is everybody in the audience, what is your advice for listening to a brand new piece for the very first time for an audience member?
Just have an open mind and sit back, relax, and enjoy it. It's like everything else. There may be something that you love, there may be something you love less, but having a positive attitude going into it for anything, it just makes it a little easier to take it in. If you go in thinking, I don't like new music, then you're going to have a difficult time trying to adjust to what you hear. But I never ask a composer to write something if I feel that the music that the composer writes can't embrace all. There's a certain kind of a sonic landscape that you get a sense of from what you've seen or heard of that composer's music before saying, I think they could do that. If I wanted something totally atonal, I would go to somebody who I know is really good at that, and they make it sound really good, even though it's atonal. But if I want something that is more traditional in a way, even though it's more contemporary, but traditional in its melodic sense, that I like somebody to say, go in and try to hear a tune from the melody or theme that you can actually sing for yourself when you leave, or you can hum and say, I can't get that out of my head. That one theme, I just keep hearing it. Then you know you've written something really well. So it's just really having an open, positive mind going into it. And if you're going, you might as well enjoy it, not put any barriers up between you and the new piece. And of course, hearing something for the first time is quite different. If you hear it again and again a few times, it starts to make sense in a different way, it becomes more recognizable.
Well, I think that's good advice for any orchestra concert or any classical music concert that you go to. Be open, be curious, and see what sits there in front of you. Well, Farhad, I'm glad you're back, and I just want to say thank you to both of you for all of your efforts for making this piece come to life. And I really, really look forward to the performances on November 19th and 20th. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it very, very much. Thanks for doing this too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to you.